I'll slide in. Ooh, welcome to the Off the Clock show. I had to slide in. We'll get to that in a minute. Here, you're joined with myself, Shawn Gervais from OrbisX, as well as Marty, Mr. Marshall Hill from hyperClean. Yes, sir. And Pints and Polishing podcast, which I was listening to this morning, actually, your episode from yesterday with Nick. It was absolutely fire. I'll post it in the group as well. Check that episode out. Really good info in there. But yes, sir. So what are we sipping on today?
Usually I just went with Old Trusty.
Okay.
Little Captain and Coke.
Never lets you down. Never disappoints.
Never lets me down.
But usually you do the crackle, you know, like you.
Yeah, but it took a little bit for you to get set up, man. What the hell? True. You give me a hard time. Come on. Like
that's true.
We're 30 minutes after we were supposed to start, so I had to crack it open. I had to get going. What are you talking about? I've been off the clock for 30 minutes.
I know. I've been on the clock doing fucking audio visual setup. Like Jesus. On that note, got a new camera today. Well, actually had this for a few months, but we finally set it up. New microphone, so it should sound crystal clear as well as look crystal clear too, which is good. I'm now almost at Marty's level. Now I got to set up the nice backdrop, and then we're good to go.
Yeah, so we were joking a second ago. My camera's always just been the Mac. That's just what I've always used.
Yeah, because your camera is phenomenal, but I thought that was like an external thing. Like I've got an external one because I've got a Dell. I love Dell laptops. Absolutely love them. They're just
why?
No? Yeah, good question. So I used to have, you know, just anything, whatever was on sale, whatever was just available, Acer, HP, didn't matter, whatever it was. But I never went the Apple route. Not sure why. I always thought it was more for video editing, that kind of shit, and I don't really do too much of that. So always went, you know, Acer or something like that. Problem is I was replacing my laptop every year because I put in work on these things. So finally I said, you know what? Let me ask a buddy who's in the industry. He knows computers. Let me ask him like what he recommends. He told me Dell. He only buys Dell. That's the way to go. So I got this one called the XPS. Absolutely phenomenal. Lasted me 5 years. It was touchscreen though, and that was the problem with it. Is I cracked a corner of the touchscreen one year, and we were in the Caribbean. Getting parts to a little rock in the middle of the ocean, it's very difficult, you know, and expensive. So the problem with that one was if the touchscreen broke, for some reason, it also disabled the mouse. So now you literally couldn't do anything. It was the stupidest thing in the world. And it's because it thought that the touchscreen was being pressed. So it would disable the mouse when the touchscreen was in use. So you didn't have two things going everywhere. Yeah, it kind of makes sense until you crack it. So
makes
anyway,
sense for dumb machines. Yeah. If the machine was smarter, it would know to bypass that.
Right? Oh, this is true. Yeah. If it was an Apple, it would know to bypass.
No, I always was an Android. Listen, my phone was always a Nokia, and then I was a massive fan of sitting there with my two thumbs on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Right, with the little roller ball.
Oh yeah.
People don't ever remember.
Man, so, I always had a BlackBerry. Loved them.
Loved it.
Yeah.
So easy for what we did and how I used it. Like, yeah, it was exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
But I kept hearing about these things called apps.
Yeah.
And so the next year that my phone was ready to be upgraded, I went in and I said, okay, we need the next BlackBerry. And by the way, what are these app things that people are talking about? To tell you how long ago this was, right?
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Now it's like apps are just like,
yeah. And they go, well, you know, there's these apps. And I go, no, where's the free apps? Like, how come this BlackBerry doesn't have any free apps? And they go, oh, well, if you want apps and you want free apps and stuff that you can use, you got to go. And they pointed me down the aisle to the iPhone. So, okay, I guess that means I've got to take that journey. I think that was the iPhone 4. I think.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was the iPhone 4, and then I kept my regular laptop and used an iPhone until about 3 years ago, something like that, 2 or 3 years ago, and I went, my stuff isn't talking right. Like you can't use your laptop and have your calendar and have everything. You can't see your message. Like, you know, it makes sense to just use all the same. So it's all networks together.
It's true.
I'm never going to go back from my iPhone, right? Like there's no way. I would never
Oh,
No.
you're crazy.
So
Nuts.
I had to then also go with the
Man.
Mac. Listen, my MacBook, I use it for like recordings. I use it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
some internet stuff, but I'm not really on it. That like, it really is
Okay,
an
yeah.
overkill. It really is an overkill for me.
Yeah, yeah. For what you're doing, yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want something headache free and it just does what it does. So yeah, that makes sense. Like right now, my setup, I've got this connected to that, connected to this.
Exactly. So, but curious though, right? Because the
Mhm.
other thing that people say about Macs and MacBooks, you tell us from your experience, are they really that much better off on viruses and people trying to hack in? Like, is
No,
it
not
really that
really.
much better? Or, I mean, you would think by now, right? The hackers
Yeah,
give up,
before.
right? Like, I mean, they still got to be able to get into your MacBook, right? Through an email or through a website, they can always still get in. Or
For
is
sure.
that what is that? Is
No,
that true or false?
it is a thing. Yeah, it's less common, that's for sure. But does still happen. But the biggest thing too is like that kind of stuff doesn't even happen as much anymore. What happens more now are other types of things like password theft and stuff like that. And because so many things have shifted to the cloud, that's where the real issue is that your information that's not stored on your computer itself, right? So it's before what they were doing, and they would use your computer's resources. That's the main reason they wanted to install something like viruses serve a purpose, right? It's disables your machine, it's running slow, you think, oh, why is my machine running slow? And it's your machine's actually running fast, just not for you. In the background they're like mining Bitcoin or all kinds of shit. So that's the whole goal of it. Doing that on a Mac, a lot more challenging for sure, but can be done, absolutely. Like I know one guy, there's a top 10 list that goes out every year of like people that hacked into crazy shit. He made it to number 9 one year, but then he started and he did it just so he could get a job. So he basically hacked a bunch of shit, showed them that their systems were flawed, got a job working for the government. So he did a bunch of stuff for, like, he worked with everybody, like all the alphabet groups, CIA, FBI, all that kind of stuff. And that was his resume. That's how he got the job, and then helped him with cybersecurity stuff. But him, Jason, he could get in your MacBook. If he wanted in your MacBook, he'd be in your MacBook. but I mean, it's a lot
How would
less
you feel
common.
taking that resume in? Like, literally, you guys could put me in handcuffs, but I'm trying to get a job.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
I'm in
yeah.
the top 9 most wanted, but trying to get a job.
Trying to get a job. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of ways to, not the way I would have taken personally. It's a pretty big risk, you know what I mean? But yeah, he had heard someone else did it. They got a job like that too. So he was like, well, why not? And yeah, he's an interesting character, this guy. Yeah, yeah. But
Good for
anyways,
him. Hey, so
yeah.
any fun food down in Cuba? What'd you eat?
Nothing. They no,
That's why you look so thin and trim, huh?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the world has hit them pretty hard, to be honest. Yeah, no, the food. Me, I eat a lot of fruits, so for me it was perfect. Lots of fresh fruits. Oh my gosh, mangoes, guava, you name it. But the if you like a lot of meat, stuff like that, it was kind of hit or miss. We've been to Cuba maybe 13 times now, so we already knew what the situation was, but we saw a lot of first timers that were there. Not very many foreigners actually were there right now. There was a lot more like Cubans at the resort. Probably the time we went, like, who goes in the summertime to Cuba? It's not a very popular time to go. But we saw some Canadians that were
Why is
there,
it
for
cold?
example. Yeah. No, it's warm everywhere else, right? But yeah, so we saw some Canadians that were there, and their first time there, they weren't sure what to expect with the
Oh
food.
yeah.
Oh yeah, eh?
Yeah, so
How
official
about that?
greeting, eh? Do you all, even in the Cuba, eh? You always go, hey, you Canadian, eh?
Yeah,
That's the way you guys talk, eh?
yeah, 100%, eh? Yeah,
Oh.
eh? Oh man, except in Toronto, they've got their own thing going on there.
But no,
But yeah,
seriously, I mean, right? Like, you guys still say that even though
it's
you're not in Canada.
oh
Like, you say it
oh
in
big time.
Cuba.
Yeah, yeah. We even type it. Like so when I message people, I catch myself because a lot of the people in the group are from the States or the UK, stuff like that. When I message in the group, I end sometimes, instead of saying like, is that right or something, I'll be like, that's the way it should be done, eh? And I put it in. I'm like, why am I typing this? But sometimes I backspace it. Other times I'll leave it. Fuck it.
What made me laugh earlier was tell the story about you and the good old trucker boy, because this is where it's funny. This is where it's funny.
Yeah. So we had a freedom convoy in Canada, obviously made international news.
Which we joked about it when we checked in.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, exactly. It was it was a situation here. People one hand protesting, the other hand, just trying to live their life. Anyway, depends on what side of the coin you look at it. But so we're in Cuba and we're having a good time. We're in the pool and this guy's there and he's got a Canadian tattoo on his chest. So he's got an actual Canadian flag right there on his chest. And so he's in the pool. He's this big burly dude. He's got this long beard, everything. He looked like a typical like trucker. If I said, draw me a trucker, this is what he looks like. Anyway, he's in the pool. He's like, hey, are you guys from Canada? I was like, yeah, man. And I was like, nice to meet you. You too, huh? He's like, how did you know? I was like, bro, are you serious? Like, you're a gigantic Canadian. And it wasn't even like a small little, it literally covered his whole chest.
But Shawn, that's not the way you told the story earlier.
No.
That's not the way you told the story earlier. You're making it Americanized now because I put you on the spot. You literally had me rolling because you told the story earlier and literally every third word was, yeah, eh?
Yeah, eh?
You're trucker, eh? You're from Canada, eh? I'm like, y'all really talk like that? Even when you're down in Cuba? Hey, you're Canada, eh?
I was like, you're from Canada, eh? Yeah, for sure. And
for sure,
like,
eh?
Yeah. I was like, bro, you have a big tattoo of a Canadian flag and everything. He looks down, he's like, oh, fucking right, eh? Literally just like that. Anyway, then he drops his drink in the pool, throws his hands in the air, and starts yelling, Frida. Oh, that was once he found out we were from Ottawa, because he's like, oh, the freedom convoy, I was like, Jesus, man, we travel halfway around the world and still can't even escape. Like, it's just everywhere. But yeah, it was a good trip though. Nice to relax. It wasn't really a leisure trip per se. We were homeless for 10 days. We were in between houses, and I said, well, we could stay in a hotel here, but then we have to feed the kids. We're stuck in one room together.
Hey, might as well go to Cuba.
Yeah, fuck it, why not? Yeah. So it was nice. Though. The one shitty thing though is the internet there is terrible. So we just turned on our phones for the mobile data. And anyway, we have a plan where if you travel, you get you pay X a day. And then, so it was like $25 a day, supposed to be high speed. It was not high speed. It was very low speed. So no internet, which is really tough with, managing businesses abroad, but then also the food, man, it was tough. Like one guy we know there, we brought him some stuff down for his cousins and stuff like that. And we're talking with him, and man, he was telling me, before, he was always like, Cuba's a tough country, but it's, tough to live, but we make it through. And he was always happy. This time he was literally like, it is hell. It is hell. And so we were talking to him. He waited 5 hours in line to get chicken and oil, had to leave because he had to work the next day. So his neighbor took his place in line, waited another 4 hours to get it. So it's tough times. We went to stores where even at the airport, went and bought some cigars. And the shelves were like empty, just empty. They just had nothing. There's nothing there. And you go buy snacks or anything. So it was tough. You can really see the effects of, I don't want to say recession, because a lot of people throw that term around too lightly, I find. But I'd say a more difficult and less creative economy. That's always how I look at it, because it's there's always business going on. So I've never really focused on recession. People hear recession, they put themselves in a box in their head, and they're like, oh, well, my business is slow because there's a recession. The minute you start thinking that way, you really shut down your opportunities that are around you, instead of just switching gears and approaching the marketplace a different way. Like maybe if before I was selling, $4,000 things with, 19 steps and a user manual and all kinds of shit, maybe I switch gears now and I start pumping out 1 years, so it's just changing your offer. That's all it is. It's not, but you don't wait until the shelves are empty. You start to pay attention. You see some shit going on. You hear other people talking about recession, and just pay attention. But It's just lack of creativity.
Borderline. I'll be talking a little bit about that here in a second when we do the tip. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, man.
So you got a little pre-tip action.
Just the tip, little pre-tip action.
Pre-tip.
The pre-tip. Okay, I'm gonna try the one. Yeah. Oh, you have a headache? No problem. It's just a pre-tip. There we go. And then look at that. The headache's gone. But
Now time for the tip.
Yeah. Now time for the tip.
Oh, headache's back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not working with that part. But yeah, so how about you? Seen any posts or anything interesting going on in the world?
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks, so I probably got a couple, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
One that stood out to me was is a post from Dylan Von Kleist, who's a rep at Rupes. And it's an interesting post. It has nothing. My comments have nothing to do with Dylan, right? Like I've met the guy, but I don't really know the guy. But there is a part of the industry, which we talked about it yesterday. You mentioned the Pints Polishing podcast. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Nick talked about it on his episode. And then it's something we've shared over the past years of something that we find very interesting is, listen, Dylan closes his post with, sincerely, a broken down former detailer.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because his post was talking about, health, which was it's a very good thing that we should learn. I'm
100%.
shared pretty openly about my health problems, things that I've done trying to overcome spinal stenosis. We've talked about, there's guys that have been on our podcast where he created a GoFundMe account, and we had him on because he was a detailer that he stepped out of his truck, he slips,
Damn.
and he's done. He broke his arm, he fractured this, and he couldn't work for months. Like, it's interesting to think that you could do it for forever.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's possible.
It is possible.
Yeah.
If, right? And this is where, right? This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where sustainability happens. This is where maybe you don't have to be the broken down detailer. Maybe you don't have to be the guy that, listen, I broke my collarbone when I was a mobile detailer. My business didn't shut down. I didn't do a GoFundMe account. Right? I mean, I fortunately had staff members that could take over my position. And most of the time I transitioned away from actually doing the work alongside them to, guys, I can't do anything. I'm just going to be the guy that brings the cars back and forth at the offices that we go to, or, hey, when we're out power washing, I'm going to be the guy that makes sure you got everything you need, but then you're going to be the guys doing the work, the main majority of it. You see posts like that, you hear stories of being broken. Like, just curious, when does it sink in for people of, I'm loving what I'm doing. How do I get to the point that I can just keep doing business and doing this for 20 years? And I'm telling you, the same thing that I've told you for 5 years. It's not going to be sitting behind a polisher. I mean, there's just no way that doing corrections and coatings is sustainable for a long term. It's just not sustainable. It isn't. It should be an add-on to your overall business around, you and I've talked about it, maintaining people's cars, cleaning their cars, servicing customers' needs, and running a car care business
100%.
Instead of calling yourself a detailer and only pigeonholing you into one extremely tiny part of the market that requires your manpower, your labor, your expertise, and everything about you that you love about you. But it's not sustainable for years and years and years and years and years and years and years.
You have to be able to scale. And if you don't want to
but
scale,
scale is such a, right? People hear scale and they think, okay, I go from cleaning cars and polishing paint to scaling it means I've got 10 other people in here that have the same passion that I do, and they're going to do as hard a work. And these guys have to do it at $14 an hour.
Mm-hmm. And that's not
scale.
No,
that's not scale. So that scale's such a tough word to use because people really misinterpret what the word means.
It's true. I know I've mentioned it to some people before that, they've wrote me and they said, oh, I'm having this problem or that problem, or same thing. Like one guy, I wonder if that's a common thing, but same thing. He fractured right here, whatever that part's called. He was out because it was his right hand. He was right-handed. And he's like, everything I do is with my right hand, and he needed time to rest. They estimated it was going to be about 6 to 8 months recovery. And I said, well, this is where you should have scaled before. And he's like, no, I don't want to be the next Walmart, And I was like, no, man, I'm not talking about like, you need to like franchise and set up like 50 locations and this and that. That's not scale. That's a version of scaling for sure. But you can scale your business in a lot of ways. You can scale up, sideways, all kinds of stuff. And for me, it was scaling the products that we offer so that if we're offering, not just services and products, like we're offering 3 things, let's say, detailing, ceramic coating, and tinting. Well, what else can we scale into so that we can also, be recession proof that way, but then also scale staff as well. And you're rarely going to find someone that has the same passion you do. And a lot of people struggle with, well, I want to find someone that can just do everything, but that person's impossible. You're not going to find.
And I only want to pay him $14 an hour, thinking that I'm paying him a lot of money. He should do a lot of work.
Yeah.
Dude, $14 an hour in today's world.
That's not the case. Yeah, exactly. Like, would you want to do it for $14 an hour? So what you're going to end up with is, let's say you can do, 3 things extremely well and run the company. Well, if you hire someone, they're not going to do those same 3 things and run the company. What they're going to do is one of those things. So now you're going to need maybe 2 people or 3 people or something like that. But it doesn't have to happen right away. So you can start to scale into it. So you're not going from, 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. Maybe you hire 1 extra person and they're going to do the part of the job, hopefully, that you dislike the most. That way it increases your longevity of being there.
And here's why most people, I think, don't do that is because that's something that they can't learn from somebody who is a former broken down detailer. And the majority of people that are teaching the industry are teaching a skill set. It's usually a skill set on how to use a polisher, how to wipe something on a certain way. We joked and called a guy out, which was awesome. It was a couple of years ago, and he stopped doing his trainings at $800. He would have people come in and they would learn how to wipe on his coating. And he bragged that he gave him a t-shirt and gave him some information on how they could, sell some stuff. And he gave them some, we gave them business advice because it showed them their cost and how to run their cost analysis. And he was charging $800.
Jeez. What was the t-shirt made of?
But they also got a bottle. Come on.
Oh,
$800.
That's
and we called him a scam artist.
Yeah. 100%. Because that's not genuinely offering value to people. Like, it's not. And I was listening to your podcast with you and Nick because you guys were touching on those topics exactly. And I'm always, looking to hear other people's perspectives or, whether they agree or disagree with my own. And this one hit the nail on the head because I feel the exact same thing. I see a lot of things out there where there's trainings on this and that. And don't get me wrong, you have to be able to enhance your skills 100%. But I feel that in this industry, I can't speak for others too much, but in this industry, I feel that there's a lot of emphasis put on the skill side for, how to use equipment or chemicals or a particular secret method of doing this or that. But there's nothing really for the business side of it, which is 90% of your business.
And it's because most people that are trying to teach you the skill set, they're honing you into something so detailed, which we're detailers. So our OCD and what we love about detailing just gets even more. Oh, wait, I can make the paint look even like this. Oh, wow, I can even do even more and go this far. And this guy's telling me how to do it. Awesome. that's great. And I'm sure he does a great job at his job,
But can you sell it? The
but
customers want it.
if he's a former broken down
Yeah.
detailer and
Yeah.
he's teaching you how to do something, he's probably going to teach you something that might also then make you
Lead you to
a what? Writing a
broken down
post
detailer.
about being a former broken down detailer.
Yeah. Man, that's brutal. Geez, see, there was, my wife and I, we were the ones working at the shop in the beginning. We knew it wasn't forever though. So it was hard, man. We were working 6 days a week, and then we still had to go pick up the kids, drop them off. We had to manage our other businesses. Dude, it was tough, but we knew that wasn't scalable. But our goal going in was to scale in other ways, and that's where we avoided becoming a broken down detailer in the end, because that wasn't our focus on, okay, I'm going to do this particular way forever. And we focused more on running it as a business itself, and then gaining our skills along the way and perfecting things, but mostly getting really good at whatever people were buying. That was our focus. If the customer didn't care if the paint was 100% perfect, I didn't feel the need to hone that skill further than what we had already done. You know what I mean? So it's just there wasn't a need. Now we do get clients that, of course, they really care about, how a certain thing looks or something like that. Sure, we just spend the extra time doing it, but it hasn't shifted our business focus to like, okay, well, I got to make really shiny cars when the majority of our customers are Uber drivers and don't give a shit. So we focus that way, and that's how we manage to stay positive about the business, passionate. And that's a big thing, is if you start to lose that, you start to hate it and stuff, how are you expecting someone that you're paying $14 an hour, how long are they going to have that passion for? A week? If you're lucky. So it's one of those things, but at $14 an hour, you're going to get what you get, kind of thing. So yeah, geez, that's brutal though. That's sad to hear though. Shit, man. I can't
Yeah. All
imagine.
right. What about you? What
You
posts?
know
What have
what?
you seen?
I'll get to mine in 2 seconds, because I do want to touch on that though. I have seen a lot of that lately, actually. People posting. I don't know if it's like they all went to the same conference or something, and people told them this was like the thing to do online. But I've seen a lot of posts lately where people are saying, "Had a really bad day today. Tomorrow will be better," and shit like that. And then other people are like, "Don't worry, man. You got this. You're a business guru." All this. I've seen tons of those posts lately where people are just like spilling their frustrations or whatever it is about their career path, or I don't know. Have you seen is that becoming like a commonplace thing, or do people just not know what to do and they turn to Facebook? I don't know.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
during tougher times, because there's no way of hiding it anymore. There's enough people speaking openly, and you mentioned that R word.
Mm.
There's plenty of people that are experiencing in all different parts of industry, not just our
Mm.
industry, but all different types of industry are experiencing a slower revenue, slower customer base, slower whatever. And I don't think it necessarily even thinks, and I'm not talking about to other owners, but
Mm.
how many then are the team members or the workers that, boy, we know that their emotions and their feelings are going to be put into more stress, and they can't handle it like somebody that owns a company. So they're just
Yeah.
going to vomit.
Yeah.
Some people just love to vomit. Love
It's
to
true.
vomit on social about their problems,
Yeah.
because social is going to give them that dopamine kick of,
The
oh,
instant.
hey, right. Hey,
It's
you're
gonna
going
be
to do,
okay.
hey,
Yeah.
right. Like that's what they
Mhm.
needed. Cool. Like it's
That's
not for
fair.
me to
Yeah.
go, oh, these fuckers. Like I didn't,
Yeah.
cool. They needed, that
If that's
person
what they need.
needed,
Yeah.
that person needed other people to tell them that they'll make it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's fair.
It's
It's just
so it is.
analysis that's what they needed. And not that I'm going to go in and be like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not going to do that, but I can analyze it and go, oh,
Yeah.
they probably needed that. That's what they
For sure.
themselves
Yeah.
needed. And that just puts them into their own special box of who they are as a person.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I have seen it a lot lately though.
And you
Jeez.
think it's
And
because of
it's,
the economy? I mean, right? People are just
I
getting
think
stressed and
so,
more
but
slow. And Do you think I don't think most people have, the people that are now starting to realize it haven't planned for it. And so their spending habits have always stayed on this when finances are starting to do this.
Yeah.
Man, we're
Now the
seeing,
chart's not making.
we're seeing, which is what I'm hoping for. My hope in this recession is that I'll be able to bump up a lifestyle in a sense, that there'll be somebody that's going to get into problem. We're already seeing it where homes are starting to come up for sale but the prices are still too high. I'm a hope that somebody will get into some problems, have to really take some, steps down. Or you remember how many homes, listen, my sister and brother-in-law did it in the 8, 9, and 10 recession. There's people that got into so many problems with their mortgage that the bank repoed the house. And then if you can get a bank repoed house, that's not right. Not the one that's, on that side of town you don't want. There's going to be bank repos, and there's going to be houses that need to get sold in nice areas.
100%.
And that's where I think that the opportunity is really going to lie. I think that people are starting to feel it. And if you don't have your expenses under control, then you don't get a chance to take care of opportunity that might happen when people fail at what they're doing and they don't have their expenses. Because you don't have your expenses under control, no problem. Maybe I'll be at the point that I can then capture and take.
Snatch something up. Exactly. Yeah, it's true. And on the flip side of that too, I think people need to put on their opportunity glasses and start looking around at their competitors and companies that might be struggling, because there might be an opportunity there where you could actually pick up their business. And I'm not meaning in the way of taking their clients, but I mean actually purchasing their business and just acquiring it, because you might even gain employees out of it too, where they weren't good at running their business. Now you've got a great, employee that can do what they're supposed to do. They have some sort of passion for it because they ran their business before, and you just handle the business side. So that's an opportunity as well. I know us right now, we're looking at, there's 3 competitors right now locally. They've been struggling for a little bit, but they still get business, just not enough to maintain their lifestyle. And we're probably going to be making 1 or 2 of them an offer and see what happens. You can get customers for a discount, so, and then if you can keep that person on board as well, now you've got another qualified and trained staff member. They might need, to be brought up to speed the way you do it, but just, there's that aspect of the big R word as well. Right. So keep your eyes peeled. You never know. So if you're a successful shop, you're running a good business, there might be some, maybe some mobile guys that can't maintain it with, gas prices or whatever, but they've got a decent customer base and could work out in your favor.
Yeah. And I think ultimately what happens during, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said another pre-tip.
Oh yeah, pre-tip. That's a good pre-tip. I mean, getting into the tip, we can definitely get into the tip, and a little pre-tip into the tip is.
Jeez. I love it. The pre-tip
is that's already going on now.
Yeah.
I said a couple of weeks ago on our community pub that we do on Wednesday nights, I took a little moment, and it was a moment of really like pay some respects to a guy that I'd seen in detailing for money. I'd seen him in some groups over the past years, young kid. And he did that. He put his polishers up for sale. He put for sale this post, and he had like trying to sell off his customer list.
Wow.
Like it was sad to see. It's going on now. It's going on right now.
And one thing I will say on that too is that if you are in that situation where it is bad, sometimes it's okay to call it quits too. Like if your heart's really not in it, you know what I mean? The reason I'm mentioning that just briefly, because I personally, I'm just not a quitter. I'll figure it out. But sometimes it is okay to bow out too, instead of putting yourself further into.
Yeah. Nick, I know you got a Nick. Nick Walters, says all the time, like, listen, business ownership isn't for everybody, and you should not feel bad about that. One analysis that you could look at is, I don't have to be Mark Zuckerberg. If I could have been number 28 of his employee,
oh,
I mean, if I would have been number 85, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're doing really well in life and you're making a lot of money and you're doing something you enjoy. That really should be where most people get to. At 44, I want to be, right? Like, think of if you're 20 to 30 and think of what you want to be in your 40s. It ultimately happens by what you start doing in your 20s that you can build
Yeah.
upon. That actually, there's few stuff that you do in your 20s that sustains into your 30s and sustains into your 40s. So what do you want to be? What does your day want to be like? How do you want to enjoy life? What do you want to do? You've got to work hard at that for the next 15 years so that when you're my age and you're 44, and you're your age, at 63.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, is it the new camera? It ages me.
Camera. That is, you got to ask them, what do I want to be doing? How do you want to be enjoying your life? What do you want to be doing?
Yeah, it's true.
It's a long journey. All right, done with the
It's
pre-tip. Goddamn, I need to get all the way in.
Get into the tip. So actually, it's funny because I have a tip for today that kind of relates to what you were just talking about and what we were talking about with people bowing out. So my tip today involves employees and hiring employees. So this deals with scaling, but also deals with knowing when it's, time to bow out or something like that. And so it's something called the Peter Principle. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Peter Principle, but essentially, you dirty birdie. Yeah, just the tip this week was the Peter Principle. So really old school of thought. Then we'll just leave. But so basically, any organization, every employee or owner will rise to a level of incompetence. So the theory is that, for example, let's say you're still thinking about it. So it's all fuck, man.
Rising, like, how the hell? The Peter Principle, really? You couldn't pick a different name just to give it a different name? What the hell?
It's the Peter Principle on just a tip. But so essentially,
rising to the occasion, huh?
Yeah, rising to the occasion. So let's say you hire a detailer, for example, and they work with you for a long time. They're really good at what they're doing. A lot of people's first intuition is to take that person and move them to a management position of some sorts and replace them with other detailers because this person's been with you a long time. They know the shop, they know the customers, they know the business. The problem with that is they're probably most likely a shitty manager. That's the reality of it. So really good detailer, probably a terrible manager. But let's say they excel at the management position, and then all of a sudden now your organization grows and you want to hire, someone to be their job now, the manager, and you move them to, I don't know, office administrator or supervisor or territorial, whatever. Every organization, people will rise to a certain level where they're no longer good at that job because they move into a position where they're not good. So that's the Peter Principle, it's theory. So with that being said, my tip today is within your organization, when it comes to everybody's going to want to advance or move vertically at some point. That's just what employees want to do. There's a lot of ways you can accomplish that. And at our shop, we've avoided moving people internally up the ladder and instead hired externally. So a third party, bring them in to fill a position, making sure that they're qualified for that role. And we keep them in that role. What we do to keep their passion alive is find new things for them to do that are horizontally based. So we might have a guy who's doing detailing. We say, okay, listen, we're going to move you to our ceramic bay and you're going to go back and forth, but you're going to, learn how to do that. But you will forever stay in the detailing role to some degree, right? Because they're good at that role. So we try and do things like that, add on skills for people. So we have one guy who's learning how to PPF right now. So he went through that transition with us. We're getting him to do that, but he's never going to be a full-time PPF person for a long time until his competency level gets up there. And so what he will be is a floater. He'll be, detailer, but then he'll float a little bit. He'll do some PPF, but mostly just assisting our actual PPF technicians because that's what they're trained in specific, right? So the Peter Principle is my tip for today. So every organization, people will rise to a level of incompetence where you move them up the ladder. And that might have happened for a lot of business owners as well, where if you're struggling running your business, maybe it's because you're not the one that should be running the business. Maybe you are incompetent at running the business, and that's not a negative thing. Everybody has their skills and things that they excel at. So if you are struggling, that's where it's a good opportunity to bring in somebody. So maybe you're trying to do the marketing because you want to keep costs down or do it yourself, but you're not realizing that you doing that is actually costing you money because you're not very good at it. And sometimes you have to look at your skills and what you're best at and put resources elsewhere. So if you're likely that person that's not very good at the marketing side, for example, bring in a marketer, have them fill that role because they're competent at what they do. Same thing goes for other things. If I've seen some guys in the group, for example, they transitioned and they started doing their owner operator. They were doing detailing. They've transitioned into doing tint and PPF. They're knocking it out of the park. There's one guy in particular, Jeremy. He is crushing it. But I would say that people like that are the outliers. They're the exception. For most people, like myself, I tried it when we were actively working in the shop. I tried transitioning over to PPF, made a huge mess. The guys still laugh at me. It was a heavy duty, one of those the super duty trucks there. Just destroyed it. I didn't destroy the truck, but just mangled up at least 2 rolls of PPF. Completely mangled it. They make fun of me for it still. They made me pay the company out of my pocket for the PPF. Anyway, so, but I wasn't good at it. I don't know. Something with I'm ambidextrous, so I can use both hands, but that sounds like an advantage, but actually they conflict with each other. I don't know. I just couldn't grasp it. Not good at it. So I stayed in my lane. I do what I do for the company. I handle the marketing for Auto World now. But they do all the technical type work when it comes to that stuff. Because I was rising to a level of incompetence. That's what was happening. So good thing I didn't, because it would have been a nightmare. So instead we just hired PPF techs. They came in, they do their thing, but I'll never have them manage the place, not in a million years. And so that's the Peter principle. So some food for thought for your own organization. That's my just a tip. Rising to the occasion.
Thanks for talking to us about your Peter.
You're welcome.
Principle behind the way you run your business. Thank you.
The way I rise up. Just a tickle.
That's interesting, because what I'm going to talk about, it does have some tie-ins to what you just said, because I think the interest, and it's pretty cool that we both are in that same little situation of being similar to what we're talking about. And I think people will see they're going to be one or two of the people, right? They're either going to go, yeah, or they're going to go, okay. So I've been listening to this book called The Art of Living, and it's written by a guy that I think he's somewhere high up in Buddhism, because he looks like it. He's got and he talks about Buddha, and it's the book on how how somebody can live, right? Like things you do, right? Breathing habits, patterns, are we really going to die? It's an interesting book. And because it's interesting, I've never really studied Buddhism. I never really looked into it. So it is interesting to get a little bit of perspective into it. And one of the things he talks about is that the evolution of people, the evolution of human beings, if you don't evolve, what happens? You go away.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, wow, I wonder how many detailers look and go, I need to evolve. How do I stay in business 2, 5, 10, 20 years? There's no way that you can still do the same thing every day for 20 years. You will get left behind. The 100%. Market changes, right? Technology 100%. Changes. So many things change in our world that if you keep doing it over and over, you'll get left behind. Your business will then go the way of the guy I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
During the big times, he was doing multi-level corrections and multi-level coatings, and was a big multi-level coating fan. I'm so thankful. Earlier, I get tagged in detailing for money groups now with people talking about, should we use Uno or should use this other product? That's great to see, because so many times for detailing for money, it was so heavy in multi-level coatings. And the
Mm.
people that never can evolve away from what the market is showing, what happens to them? They go away.
Yeah.
The problem is people think I've got to go evolve into PPF. I've got to go evolve into tint. You know what? I've got to go take a training on PPF, even though I've got this business that's going on over here with the shop. I've got contacts, that I've got work that's coming in. But I think that evolution for me means I need to go get another skill set and another banner to hang on my wall, another plaque to put up, and another badge to put on my shirt.
Mm.
But is that really evolution?
If
Are
you
you
evolve
really, as a person,
quickly,
evolving? Is your
yeah.
company growing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Evolution probably should be more of what you said, which is why I say I'm piggybacking a little bit. You should look into what the market is in your area where you can make the most amount of money, where you can have team members that can be a part of your business. They can have a great life. You begin to evolve into a different role into your business, to where you're nurturing and taking care of people that are inside of your organization. You're evolving into new places that you can help your customer by having new services, but you're not evolving into the side that you're doing every single thing because you think that you have to do it. That's not evolution. And that's where most people
Yeah.
have the problem. They think that it means I need to have another skill set. Evolution really should be what you just said. How do I learn enough so that then I have team members and people that can come alongside, and or not just team members. Evolution doesn't have to mean that I created more staff members that I have all these new headaches with. Evolution for you could be I go work with these other businesses that they do so great at PPF, and I work out a wholesale deal with them. And now my customer gets what they really need, because I know that ceramic coating isn't what they need. They need rock chip protection. And so that's a front half instead of a front clip, right? I'm going to do the whole front half of the vehicle. Going to get a wholesale rate for somebody that has great expertise. My customer gets the job done. It gets serviced, and I make a little piece of the pie. And then I'm maintaining the car, and I'm going to go ahead and put a coating on top of it and around the other side of the areas. And then I'm going to continue to see this car week after week after week after week.
100%.
That's evolution, right? Like that's seeing what a customer needs and seeing what the market can do and evolving through it. So
It's true. It's true. It's baby steps.
Yeah. Baby steps. Yes. But you got to think of it too. As I'm literally want to think of that word evolution. It takes baby steps to get there, but most people think that, oh, that means I've got to take the steps.
And it doesn't. Yeah.
An evolution, that's not what you did. Your company didn't evolve by you keep doing the work. No, your company
100%.
evolved by you taking a step back and going, hey, it's probably better for the company that somebody else do this, and I'm going to do this.
100%. Yeah. So a great example too at our shop. So we do remote installs, like remote starters. So because here winter, it's a very common thing, but a lot of cars that are sold don't have them built in. So we install those. We subcontract it out 100%, because number one, I don't want to stock this stuff all year round. It's taking up space in our shop. I don't want the storage. Number one. Number two, I don't want to have to hire someone that's so seasonally based that, so we have a guy, that's what he does in his off time in the winter. So we just schedule it around his schedule and we have him come in. But that was one way that we could evolve, but that's with another person. Yes. But a subcontractor. So it was, evolution, but a minor change. It wasn't something that had to be so drastic that like, okay, I got to send my whole team down to learn how to do remote starter installs. So that was a good evolutionary change. But then other things too, like our maintenance programs, we used to in the beginning recommend, 3 to 6 months. We would tell people to come in. And then we decided, why don't we just try pushing every 30 days, see how it goes. Not every customer bid on that, but a big chunk of them did. So it brought in more money, but we were evolving. And so now we're seeing the customer more. So the business itself evolved because of these little changes. And that's the point I think you're getting to, is that you got to evolve, you have to, but it doesn't have to be so drastic where it's a 90-degree turn to,
Yeah.
I'm
And it
now
could
doing
be as
something
simple
completely different.
as over the past years, the way the economy has been, the way people were clean freaks, the way the amount of money that was in the system, especially in the US, you got a massive ticket price. You could do these things that people just would pay for.
Yeah.
That's changing, right?
Yeah.
It's changing. People
100%.
don't have as much to, now there'll always be people with money. And if you're tied into those people, they're always going to have the money. And then you might need to evolve and going, well, just because they have it, does that mean I need to take it from them? Do I really need to be removing clear code as much? Do I really need to do all this? That could be part of your evolution, because your evolution really might be, how do I step away from doing all the work all the time and always having to manage people to where they're just, I'm always having to get them and I'm always, golly, and that you get so frustrated because it's so difficult to do. And that you go, God, these people, they just don't do it. Oh gosh, these people don't get it. These people just don't. All these people.
Mm.
Maybe
It's
the
always-
evolution is
it's always
stop going,
them.
all these people, and go, oh, my packages,
Yeah.
right? Maybe the evolution should be, how do I, instead of doing these multi-stage and multi-levels, how do I have something more simplistic for people? That is, if you need a polish, if the customer thinks that the car needs polishing, then I'm using an all-in-one or a system that I can train really. Listen, I'll go ahead and one of my posts that I've seen that I was going to talk about next time, right? Is everybody's seen it. There's a couple apes on a car moving a polisher up and down. I've got tagged in videos where people got their kids holding a polisher, polishing a car.
Jeez.
Enough said, right? Like, enough said. I don't even need to go further with that. Everybody gets it. If you have the ability to train somebody on how to hold a polisher, put product on a pad, have the right pad, if you got your system in line, you can have somebody bring a car in, wash it, decon it, polish it, put down hyperClean Uno, hyperClean Dos, hyperClean Tray. These are easy 1, 2, and 3 year, depending on what your customer is needing. Everybody's happy. You made money. Team member did a great job. Your team member got rewarded for doing a great job. Hint, hint. And then your customer got a great value, and they're happy because you asked them the right questions. You met their needs, and they got a 2-year coating. They're tickled pink. Their car looks amazing, and you made money. Like, maybe that's the evolution that some of the business owners should do.
100%. And I think we're seeing that across the whole industry. But I think it's kind of a wave. Like, it's happened across the industry, but people are now catching up to actually implementing it. And so that's the part that's going to take time. So save yourself the time, listen to this podcast, repeat it if you need to, and put that stuff in practice. Absolutely. Yeah. That was a great tip. I almost said I like your tip. That's how you become a meme. Yeah. Anyway, no, that was great. That was great. So that plus the Peter principle, and you're good to go. Jesus. I didn't name it. Okay. I'm just recycling someone else's theory. But anyway, yeah. So, and I have some good ones for next week too. So be sure to tune in as well. Yeah, Marty, this was great, man. Absolutely. And it's nice to catch back up, because I was going through a lot with the move and Cuba and everything. So yeah, I miss our little sessions. So this is good. All right, awesome. So yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. Peter Principle and evolve. Make sure to evolve. That's the most important thing. Absolutely. And when evolving, use the Peter Principle to make sure you don't evolve the wrong way.
Make sure he goes up, not down.
I know.
All right, guys. Have a good week.
All right, man. We'll see you next week. Thanks
I
again,
got to get
Marty.
back on the clock. So,
Yeah, me too. See you next week. Thanks.
See ya.
Ciao.